And a very happy Tuesday to you at 12:07 in the West. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wangs in Culver City.
Johnny, let's get right into this. L.A. Fire Chief, or should I say former L.A. Fire Chief Kristen Crowley, is at L.A. City Hall right now at her appeal hearing, and she went off on Karen Bass and accused her of several falsehoods. This just happened minutes ago as the city council is now debating whether to appeal her firing.
In regard to my appeal, now I will set the record straight about the multiple false accusations that were made against me.
Like O.J., she's got some getting even to do.
And she's got the receipts.
First, I did not refuse to conduct an after-action report. And let me be clear, this is a false accusation.
You hear that, Karen Bass? Liar, liar, pants on fire?
Okay, but let's explore this for a second, because what Karen Bass was asking for was not an after-action report that was honest. Because if you were to write one that was honest, you would say, we notified the mayor's staff that there was wind and there was a threat of fire, and we told them that this was severe and acute to the city of Los Angeles, and she decided to go to Africa anyway. We were not aware of the fact that the reservoir was empty and there was no water available to us in Pacific Palisades. There's a whole list of items, the budget cuts that we had warned the city about that we knew would be a problem ended up being a huge problem and prevented us from having trucks that were operational and able to be dispersed to the affected areas. None of it would make the mayor look good. What the mayor wanted was the fire department to do an after-action report where they took the L for everything, and the mayor ended up looking okay. The mayor was looking for cover from the fire department, not an honest report.
And the chief has a very good excuse for why they didn't even need to do one of these reports, because somebody else was already doing one.
During our discussions after an report, I should say, during our discussions about an after-action report.
She's a little nervous.
She's not used to public speaking.
I should say, during our discussions about an after-action report, I advised the fire commissioners about my opinion that was best in regard to how to use LAFD resources. I said that the LAFD is not capable, nor do we have the proper resources to adequately conduct an after-action report for the Palisades fire due to the sheer magnitude, scope, and complexity of the incident. We are already understaffed, under-resourced, underfunded. And
forget that the fires were still raging. We got to take a whole bunch of people off the line so they could do some accounting.
Don't they usually hire law firms, independent law firms, to do reports like this after there's a big to-do?
And based on my knowledge of the LAFD's resources and capabilities, I recommended simply to collaborate with Governor Newsom's already selected and funded agency, Fire Safety Research Institute, or FSRI, because they are already conducting an independent analysis of the windstorm and fire events in the Los Angeles and Ventura counties.
And that is the agency that's going to throw Karen Bass under the bus.
And note the fact that she doesn't want to write the report herself, so that way it can just simply be dismissed as CYA. She was looking for an independent group with no affiliation to the city to do an honest, independent investigation, and the mayor provided pushback on that.
In contrast to the LAFD, FSRI has the capability to conduct a proper, thoroughly researched and analyzed after-action report and wildfire analysis. And the FSRI report will also be independent, which is so important as we figure out a way to move forward.
Karen Bass wanted to sweep all this under the rug and find a scapegoat, and she did find one.
She's looking for political cover.
This is what they're already being paid to do. Prior to me leaving the meeting, the fire commissioners agreed with my recommendation that FSRI is the best equipped to conduct the after-action report. FSRI will also be publishing its findings and recommendations like it did for the Lahaina fire that occurred in early August 2023 on the island of Maui. Now, my position has not changed, and I wholeheartedly support the need for a professional organization to conduct a full analysis of the Palisades fire. We owe that to the community, we owe that to the fire service, and that is the path forward. These steps are essential to improving response efforts, guiding recovery, and building a better and safer disaster resilience community for our future.
So there's half of Karen Bass's argument flushed down the toilet.
Keep in mind, she kept beating the drum on this one. She refused to write the report. What is she trying to hide? Well, no, it wasn't that she was refusing to write the report. She wanted an independent entity to write the report so that the mayor didn't get home cooking.
Second, on the morning of the fire, I did not send home 1,000 firefighters who could have hopped on fire engine and fought the Palisades fire, nor did I leave 40 available fire engines unstaffed.
Once again, directly calling Karen Bass a liar.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
That Bass is cooked.
These are all false accusations as well. The 40 fire engines in question were already staffed and running 911 calls with on-duty personnel in their normal configuration. When the Palisades fire broke out, those fire engines were appropriately staffed and were used where they were needed.
Where did Karen Bass make up these arguments? Out of thin air?
I'm not sure, but if you recall correctly, when Fox 11 was reporting and when Rick Caruso initially made the allegation that there was no water in the fire hydrants, remember that was called fake news too until they finally got to the point to where everyone on the ground over there, including the firefighters, the homeowners, the reporters, were saying the same thing, which was that there was no water in the fire hydrants?
Additionally, at 0800 hours on January 7th, 2025, the LAFD pre-deployed 24 engines, 3 battalion command teams, 5 brush patrols, 2 water tenders.
I guess Karen Bass didn't know about any of this because she was in Ghana.
Oh, yeah. She was on the plane coming back probably, having meal service.
Well, and so much has come out in just the last 24 hours about all of her staffers being well aware by the National Weather Service and the Office of Emergency Management about the dangerous winds, about setting up an emergency command center before the winds had even started. So either Karen Bass didn't care or she is an environment where her staffers were afraid to tell her, don't go to freaking Ghana.
Or she just hires the worst people and they don't even know what they're supposed to be doing when they show up to work.
I mean, we do know one of her deputy mayors, the one in charge of public safety, that would have been the liaison between her and the fire department, is currently under investigation for bomb threats.
Additional air operations personnel and additional dispatchers. These 128 pre-deployed and augmented personnel were strategically placed in wildfire-prone areas across the entire city, near multiple freeways to ensure a rapid response.
And why would they be near freeways? Oh, because that's where all the homeless encampments are. Let's not forget, Crowley, when she first was appointed to this job, made news when she admitted half of all the fires that LAFD responds to are Karen Bass homeless encampments.
I wonder if the mayor got upset at her for making that remark, because that's when it became very clear how much of a fire threat those encampments posed.
Our actions were based on the recommendations of our subject matter experts, the LAFD's emergency operations staff. As for the 1,000 firefighters who allegedly were sent home prior to the fires, we did not have enough apparatus to put them on. Because of the budget cuts and lack of investments in our...
Oh boy, here we go, Karen Bass.
By the way, these are cuts that actually happened that Karen Bass falsely claims never occurred.
For 2 months, she's been going around saying, I didn't cut the budget, I increased the budget. Here we go. The fire chief has the receipts.
Because of the budget cuts and lack of investments in our fleet maintenance, over 100 of our fire engines, fire trucks, and ambulances sat broken down in our maintenance yards, unable to be used to help during one of the worst wildfire events in our history. And
that's 100% on the mayor and the city council.
And they just denied reality for a long time. And when the LA Times was just printing everything that they would say, and public radio and the rest of them, they could usually just get away with it. But now that Elon owns Twitter And now that the owner of the Times has been red-pilled, they can't just get away with telling these lies to your face and having everyone vouch for them. Now the truth gets out, and when the truth gets out, there's no place for the mayor to hide.
And third, it is also a false allegation that we failed to notify the mayor's office about the upcoming weather event.
Yes! She's doing it, everybody!
And she has the receipts.
It is also a false allegation.
Karen Bass might have the worst political instincts of any mayor in Los Angeles history, worse than Garcetti.
And keep in mind, she's been in elected office forever. And the fact that she was in these legislative positions, whether it be in the state legislature or in Congress, hid the fact that she was this dumb and this incompetent the entire time.
No!
It is also a false allegation that we failed to notify the mayor's office about the upcoming weather event.
So every single thing that Karen Bass gave as a reason why she needed to fire the fire chief is a straight-up lie, according to the fire chief.
And she figured that no one would ever bother checking.
I stand by our previous statements about this. The LAFD engaged in all of its standard communications, including emailing 2 separate media advisories, conducting multiple live and recorded media interviews about the predicted extreme weather and fire danger, and also notifying city officials about the upcoming weather events. The Emergency Management Department also plays a key role in notifying the mayor's office and city officials. And the mayor's office itself also sent out multiple media messages prior to the fire's warnings about the expected destructive and potential life-threatening windstorm.
It wasn't that she didn't know, it's that she wanted to party her ass off in Ghana.
Now, keep in mind, when this first broke out and it was clear that the city screwed up, the first thing she blamed were unprecedented winds and global warming. And when no one was buying into that, that's when she switched the blame to the fire chief. Then she fired the fire chief, and the blame still kept coming her way. That's when she decided to set up Steve Soberoff so that she could blame him for all of the problems post-fires, because he's the guy in charge of rebuilding the Palisades. She is setting everyone up to be blamed that's around her so that you don't blame her. But they're not the problem. She's the problem.
It is never the wrong time to do the right thing and to speak the truth. And the truth is that the fire chief should not be prevented from or punished for speaking openly and honestly about the needs and capabilities of the LAFD, or for doing their best to protect our firefighters and our communities.
Yeah, this is straight up retaliation. And I'm telling you, if this firing holds and the city council does not reverse this, the meeting's still going on right now, she has one hell of a lawsuit on her hands.
Oh, can you imagine how much she's going to ding the city for? Because I can't imagine putting anyone on a jury less open to dishing out big lawsuit verdicts than me. And I'm looking at this and I'm saying, okay, she got fired because she wouldn't go along with the mayor's lies. And then after that, the city council didn't want to validate the fact that the mayor was lying through her teeth, so they reaffirmed the mayor's bad decision. This is wrongful termination in bold.
In closing, it has been an absolute honor of my life to serve and represent the incredible men and women of the LAFD as their fire chief. Our people do amazing things every single day, and I am so grateful, beyond words, to have been in this position for nearly 3 years. We have much to be proud of.
Someone's car alarm's going off.
It is LA City Hall.
We have much to be proud of, and we stand with and always will stand with the communities that we serve with integrity, compassion, and courage. I urge you to vote to reinstate me as the fire chief. But no matter how the vote goes, the LAFD, your LAFD, deserves to be properly funded, staffed, and resourced so that we can meet the ever-growing needs of the community. We owe that to the LAFD, and we owe that to those we serve. Thank you.
There were a lot of firefighters in attendance, as well as the gadflies at LA City Hall this morning. And before Crowley got to speak, it was an hour of public comment, which had the gadflies, but also had several firefighters, including the fire union, saying this is one of the few times where the union is standing with management. And then you also had a whole bunch of people with different perspectives all saying, no, Karen Bass was right because LAFD is racist.
That's the mayor's defense, that anyone supporting the fire chief is racist.
There were several people, all from different nonprofit organizations. Maybe they have ties to the mayor, maybe they don't, all saying, no, you don't understand. There has been a long history of racism in LAFD, so Crowley got to go because she's a white lesbian.
Here's what we've learned. The mayor is not only bad at her job, she is a pathological liar with horrible judgment. The people that she hired around her either didn't tell her about the wind or told her about the wind and don't have the credibility and don't have the ability, for whatever reason, to acknowledge that fact. The manager or the administrator who was supposed to be dealing with public safety was on administrative leave for allegedly making false bomb threats. The mayor knew about the wind because it was on the television, it was on the radio, it was in the newspaper, and it was all over social media. She is trying to save her own bacon, and she's willing to do anything and say anything to do that. In a one-party city where that party largely controls the news media, usually the party prevails. This time around, I think things might be different because she is so bad and she is so dishonest and her administration is so incompetent that not even her allies in the news media can cover for her. It's time for her to go, and I think even in a city as blue as Los Angeles, the people of LA, the same people who chose her to be mayor, are going to dump her at the first opportunity. What say you? Knowing what you know, hearing what you heard today, do you think Mayor Karen Bass is a goner? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Will writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. If there's any justice, Karen Bass will be added to the list of homeless when she's tossed out of her Hancock Park mayoral mansion. Go recall. Hopefully she ends up living at the Iris with Ishmael the crackhead.
And Randy, if you missed yesterday's show or maybe a show from last week and you want to go back and find out what you missed out on, that's easy to do.
All you got to do is go to KABC.com, click on podcasts, go to the Apple Podcasts app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You can do a Google on the YouTube or get that handy-dandy KABC app. Search KABC AM in the Apple App Store or the Android Store. It's the easiest way to listen live to this radio station and download all the podcasts so you can stay informed on everything that's going in the Los Angeles area and everything that's going on in the San Francisco area.
So why pee outside?
Right now, we're taking your calls at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. The fire chief, or former fire chief of Los Angeles, says that the mayor is a liar, and the mayor is being dishonest with you, the people of Los Angeles, about the facts related to the fires. She also brought the receipts with her. Do you believe the mayor will survive this scandal? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. We're taking your calls right now at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Do you believe LA Mayor Karen Bass will survive the damning indictment that is playing out right now as we speak at City Hall? And Randy, we just heard from the fire chief, but some of the members of the council are participating in the pile-on.
Yeah, Monica Rodriguez screamed for about 20 minutes about how unjust this is. Tracy Park can't believe that Karen Bass would fire the fire chief after any evidence has been shown whatsoever. Imelda talked for like 3 minutes about how great the fire chief is, but then said, well, she talked to the press, so she should be fired. So Imelda's bought and paid for that seat on the Metro board. John Lee didn't want to speak. Tim McCosker spoke for a while, but I couldn't tell what his position was because we came back from break. And now Hugo wants to speak. And does he want to end debate? We're going to find out what are they voting on this now? Oh, boy. Let me pull this up.
Okay. So because not everybody has had the opportunity to speak twice.
Okay, so Hugo Soto Martinez tried to make a motion to end debate on this item and just vote because he doesn't want any more of this crap to be heard because he's on the mayor's side. He was at Karen Bass's press conference when she fired Crowley. And by the way, the head of the firefighters union called out Hugo specifically saying, you're such an advocate for labor. No, you're not. Hugo's a hack.
And, of course, they want to cut this off ASAP because the longer this goes on, the worse the mayor looks.
Yep.
Do you think the mayor is going to survive? 800-222-5222. Let's begin with Patrick in La Puente. Patrick, welcome.
Hey, John. Good afternoon. How you doing?
Good.
She's not going to make it. Heads are going to roll. We're still going to have the lousy city council, whatever left side name you don't like, calling shots. But no, they've got to make examples. Like, everybody needs a scapegoat. They started with the fire chief. They're going to go to her, and hopefully next is Newsom because, it's unacceptable what happened and how it was handled.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Keon in Santa Monica. Keon, hello.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Thank you for a great job. I enjoy your shows tremendously. I think her fate should be the one that she did to that fire chief. She should be the one to get fired. She is horrible person. You should listen to her interview with Amanpour when she got hired, and she was blaming everything on Republicans. Everything. You should see that show with Amanpour and Mayor Bass. She doesn't know jack about nothing. She's a two-bit liar and a hustler. She doesn't know about homelessness problems. She doesn't know about fire or anything else that has to do with community. She should go back and do parking tickets or something.
All right. Thank you for the call. Let's go to George in Northridge. George, hello.
Thanks for taking my call. Odds are that she won't survive. What I'm curious about is how all the supervisors are going to be playing their cards. Because in a way, their kind of like political future is on the line. But one thing I need to say is this. We need to take a step back because we need to use the quote from the lady from India when she quoted about Garcetti, because Garcetti placed this fire chief there. And I forget her quote exactly, but it says, could this possibly be Garcetti's fault?
Oh, you mean this one?
Critics say this largely is Garcetti's fault.
Yeah, there you go.
Good point. He may be next.
No. He's far from that chopping block.
Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to John in Encino. John, hello.
Hi, good afternoon, John. Thank you for letting me on the show. I enjoy it regularly, but in either case, I think she's going to survive because in California, we seem to make stupid decisions. This woman was incompetent before she got elected, and we had a guy, Rick Caruso, who was a much better candidate and would have performed much better. And instead, we went with the idiot. And we did the same thing with the recall on Newsom. We turned around and we had an opportunity to fix that, and we didn't fix it. So California just doesn't pay attention, particularly to performance. They pick people who fit a certain box, I think, and that's where it's going to stay.
Well, to your point, if you remove Karen Bass or you put her on the ballot, whether it be in a recall situation or just when she's up for re-election, you really have three options that can take place. One is she gets reelected and she stays on for another 4 years. And keep in mind, it's going to be the same electorate that selected her over Rick Caruso who will be making the decision. So that's option A. Option B is that we get someone better than her. We get Rick Caruso or Tracy Park or someone in that mold who would be head and shoulders better than Karen Bass, an improvement. But again, the same electorate that chose her over Rick Caruso will be the ones deciding. The third option, and this is an option that doesn't get spoken of often, but it's a possibility, is that we end up with someone worse than Karen Bass. We know that the socialist city controller is kicking tires on running for mayor. Not just him, there are members of the city council who could potentially declare their candidacy, and many others in the city of L.A. who would be further to the left than Karen Bass and more incompetent than Karen Bass. We saw this play out in Chicago, where they had Lori Lightfoot, who was the mayor, who was incompetent, bad at her job, ran the city into the ground. And people said, okay, we need to move on. We need to find someone else. But instead of selecting someone who was better than her, they ended up with a socialist candidate, a defund the police guy, who was much worse than her. And now he's sitting at 7% approval rating, and he's destroyed the city even more. That is possible in Los Angeles.
Well, that's the problem, is that there's a lot of money and there's a lot of support from the back end of things. They've already decided who's going to be the candidate and who they're going to stand behind, because that person's going to fall in line with whatever their agenda is. And it has nothing to do with competence at all.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Vicky in Huntington Beach. Vicky, hello.
Hello, and we love you here in Huntington Beach. This surfer girl loves you. Hey, just want to say, pass the butter already. This Karen Bass is toast. She don't have a chance. L.A., get it together, please. And I think the fire union is gonna do well for their member. Mahalo.
All right. Thank you for the call. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Do you think L.A. Mayor Karen Bass is going to survive this debacle? The fire chief just went in front of the city council asking to be reinstated as chief of the L.A. Fire Department, and she said the mayor lied about every aspect of her dismissal, and the fire chief brought the receipts. Do you think Karen Bass lives to see another day? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Maria writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com and says, the political career of Karen Bass is over. All the opponent has to show is the burning Palisades. If Crowley doesn't get to keep her job, she should run for mayor as Karen Bass's opponent. And by the way, we do have an update. The LA City Council voted 13-2. The only two members to want to see this appeal for Kristen Crowley to keep her job were Tracy Park and Monica Rodriguez. Every single other member of the council sided with Karen Bass on this, and when asked for most of their opinions, they didn't want to give them. The ones that did, it was pretty much, well, she shouldn't have told the press that the budget was cut.
And for a couple of them, there's no excuse. John Lee was a Republican who then became decline the state or no party preference or whatever we're calling it now, because he wants to continue to be elected in Los Angeles. But essentially, his political ideology is as a Republican. He voted to dump the fire chief. Same thing with Tim McCosker, who is a guy who came from the firefighters union before he was elected to the city council. The firefighters union are, of course, the most vocal supporters of the fire chief in this particular incident, and he sided with the mayor. So it shows you that 13 out of 15 were not willing to piss the mayor off, and they voted to stand by her despite the fact that she's a proven liar.
What a disgrace.
Let's go to the phones right now and begin with Andy in Redondo Beach. Andy, hello.
Hey, John, how are you? Great show as always. I think she's toast. And and at the end of the day, she's going to cry racism. And then, that's going to be the story. But, it's like Chick Hearn used to say, how did he say it? The door's closed, the butter's getting hard.
It's in the refrigerator. The door's closed, the butter's getting hard. The eggs are cool, the butter's getting hard, the Jell-O's jiggling.
That's it. That's the story. And that's all I got to say.
All right. Thank you for the call, Sarah. Let's go to Carol in Los Angeles. Carol, hello.
Hi there. I think that we should fire her and not fire the fire chief. She is the most ridiculous person, the way she's running the city of Los Angeles. It's horrific. I have a business in Los Angeles near the park there, MacArthur Park in Alvarado. If you could come down there and see what is going on and what is she doing. She's shipping all these people to this area, all these homeless people, these drug addicts, and then they want us to pay taxes. I'm paying a tremendous amount of taxes. I can't rent. I have a little strip mall. I can't rent one of the places because nobody wants to rent it because of what I'm going through. Yet I got to pay almost $46,000 a year in taxes, property taxes. The woman has got to go, and I would like to beg Rick Caruso to come back. Is there any way we could get him to run again?
Well, he certainly looks a whole lot like a candidate. Whether or not he's going to run for mayor or governor remains to be seen. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Robert in San Pedro. Robert, hello.
Yes, gentlemen, thank you very much for having me. You guys are some polished diamonds, since I found you. Now, this has got to come to the public's attention. Due to the recent fires, which were a disaster. Now, Mount Wilson has a 100-inch and a 60-inch telescope. And in order to stabilize those telescopes, they have to be sitting in a pool of mercury in a seismic zone, which we are in. If that mercury gets into the water table, this will become a swamp. It will be useless. Los Angeles will be erased. Thank you very much for... Oh, one more thing.
There's more?
The traffic guy? Yeah. The traffic guy, the toony dude, if everybody listening pitches in $1, I bet you he can go to Tahiti for about a week. Oh, and those names also. Here's 2 for you. Alec Baldwin and Richard Gazinia. Thank you for having me.
I'm so confused on so many levels.
Me too. Let's go to Bob at Encino. Bob, hello.
Hello, John. Love your show.
Thank you.
Of course, we want Mayor Bass to go, but part of me wants to keep her around for about 5 years because the Adam Schiff show is just getting started here with this fire rebuild, and she needs to be around to answer to these people, and they're going to bring it to her. And also, we need to out all these other people out that are in the shadows, that are incompetent, don't give a damn about running the city properly, don't care about our resources or our roads, or all they care about is tax, and this industry of taxation and creating these, for instance, the homeless industrial complex. And people need to wake up. They need to really look at who they're voting for. Her history was there for everyone to see, and it wasn't. It's not what LA needs, and it's probably not what most wanted. So that's where I stand with it.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. We have 2 more hours coming up on the John Phillips Show. The Fix California Hour is next. Riverside County Sheriff and candidate for California Governor Chad Bianco joins us. Stick around. This is Talk Radio 790 KABC.